Disney's California Adventure is one of the more famous theme parks in the entire world, and in this review, I will tell you if this park is indeed worth visiting. The park originally opened back in 2001, with much more California theming than it has today. Recently, Disney has been implementing a lot of different characters and character-based lands into the park. Things like Cars Land, Avengers Campus, and Pixar Pier. But all of these areas still look very nice. And I think California Adventure as a whole looks very nice. From the nice landscaping to the theming, it really does create a good atmosphere in most areas. This park is also very picturesque in some sections, especially the Ferris wheel and the Incredicoaster. How those two attractions work together in the skyline is incredible. And as if the daytime visuals weren't good enough, this park is arguably even better at night, especially in Cars Land. That area is absolutely stunning when the sun goes down. And if you really just want to take in the atmosphere, Cars Land at night is the best place to do it. This park is expensive to get into though, as you'd expect. It costs about $100 for tickets. Now, I would recommend arriving about an hour before park opening. This should allow you to get through security, the gate, and eventually be near the front of the line at rope drop. As of this recording, they drop the rope at 8 a.m. and they have lawn hours on almost every single day also. So if you stay open to close, it will be a long day in the parks, but I think it's probably going to be a pretty good day. I really like this park. Now, you always want to maximize your time in a park, and one of the best ways to do that is taking advantage of the morning crowds. There are definitely not as many people there in the morning, so take advantage of these lower crowds. So, where should you go first? That depends. Firstly, I would strongly recommend getting the Genie Plus Lightning Lane Fast Pass. This really helps your experience, as you can ride many more attractions. That being said, 2 rides are not included on the regular Lightning Lane. The first is Web Swingers A Spider-Man Adventure, and the second is Radiator Springs Racers. So you could, in theory, go to one of these 2 rides first because they aren't included on the Lightning Lane and they're both pretty popular attractions. I would understand that. My only problem with that touring plan is that so many people go there right after rope drop. I have a different plan in mind. I would start with the Incredicoaster because this ride is a walk-on in the morning. Then, I would do Toy Story Midway Mania, which gets really busy and is located right next door. You can then knock out any flat rides you want to on the pier, Goofy Sky School, the Wild Mouse Coaster, and Little Mermaid, the dark ride. Don't use lightning lanes on these attractions. Wait in the standby line. And the reason for this is because if you do this plan, the lines are short anyway, and you can only book 1 attraction per day using the lightning lane. After you've done all these rides, I would then either book a lightning lane for Guardians of the Galaxy and or Soarin' Around the World. I would get whichever one you can that's sooner, and then say Guardians is sooner and you check into that ride, book one for Soarin' Around the World. When it comes to doing Radiator Springs Racers and Web Swingers, I would use the single rider line for Radiator Springs Racers. Obviously, you won't get to ride with your party, probably, but it does definitely save time. For Web Swingers, honestly, I'm not sure, because that's when you probably want to ride with your family, so I would say just wait it out at some point. Overall, though, Disney's California Adventure has a pretty good collection of attractions and rides to do. The park has 2 roller coasters, Incredicoaster being the star. I have a separate review that goes into much more detail, but here are the highlights. Incredicoaster has fantastic onboard audio, a decent launch, a couple good airtime moments, and is a very long ride. I would just describe it as fun. I mean, what's not to like about Incredicoaster? Goofy Sky School is the other roller coaster at the park. This is a mock Wild Mouse that I actually have come to really enjoy my last couple visits. It has some good laterals, a couple nice theming touches, and a fun drop too. But because it's a Wild Mouse, the cars on this are rather tight, so just be careful when you're getting in and out. Soarin' Around the World is a ride that is really just a great simulator. The ride, I would just describe it as peaceful, and it has some really nice visuals along the way. Plus, the soundtrack is amazing. I always come off this ride with a smile on my face, though it does have a slow-moving line, so watch out for that. Located nearby is the park's lone water ride, this being Grizzly River Run. I've never done this ride because I just don't care too much for rapids rides, but from what I've heard, it's an okay attraction. Moving on to the rides in Avengers Campus, Guardians of the Galaxy is definitely the better of the two. If you like floater airtime, or really any kind of airtime, this ride is for you. This is one of the best drop towers out there, and it not only has a fun story, but it also has a great pre-show. This ride is just madness. The aforementioned Web Slingers A Spider-Man Adventure was just okay to me. I found the ride system and how you shoot at the targets kinda cool, but otherwise it was kind of lame in my opinion. I still think you should do it if it's your first time, but it's definitely not going to be one of the best rides in the park. Speaking of the best ride in the park, that honor, at least to me, belongs to Radiator Springs Racers. This is a wonderful attraction. It really has 3 parts. The first part is a shorter section with some great scenery. And the second section is inside, showcasing many amazing animatronics. They did a superb job with the indoor section, and the ride culminates with a fun racing section outside. It feels pretty fast, and because you never know if you're gonna win or lose the race, there's always a fun sense of competition. There's also a couple of fun dark rides with The Little Mermaid and Monsters Inc. Mike and Sully to the rescue. Neither of these rides are elite, but they do help fill out the park's ride lineup. For flat rides, the collection is decent. The Pixar Power Round might be some people's favorite, or it's your least favorite, one or the other. This ride is not my forte. Really, Ferris wheels aren't my forte in general, but it does give some nice views of the park. You also have a collection of spinning flats on the boardwalk. In Cars Land, you have 2 rides that are basically flats. Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters is arguably the more unique of the 2. On this attraction, you sit in cars and dance around. Honestly, it's almost more fun to watch than it is to ride, but it's still pretty fun when you're on it. I also love the music they have going during the experience. And then Mater's Junkyard Jamboree always, and I mean always, brings a smile to my face. The audio with Mater singing is just absolutely hilarious, and from a Forces perspective, there are some decent laterals throughout as well. I probably like this ride more than I should, but what's not to like? I'm always laughing on this one. I would say California Adventure's ride lineup overall is pretty solid. There aren't as many good but not elite attractions to fill out the ride lineup as there are at Disneyland, for example, but the top rides are still elite. Since when we're there we usually focus on rides more than shows, I haven't done very many shows, but we were able to see World of Color last time. And there were indeed some very cool effects that they were able to do with the fountains. The neat visuals paired with the audio makes this a pretty enjoyable show, and if you like shows more than I do, you will probably find it a lot better than I did. Moving on to food, whatever you get here should be fine or great. And for desserts, you should get the adorable snowman frosted treats as you see here. They have some unique options, and it's really just so good. When you aren't eating, doing rides, or watching shows, there are some interesting things you can do, like the Sorcerer's Workshop. This indoor area is kind of a hidden gem. There's some cool things to mess around with, there's a library, and this should definitely entertain kids for 15 or 20 minutes. In this same building, you can find the Animation Academy and Turtle Talk with Crush. Operations at this park are usually quite good. On RCDB, it says that Incredicoaster dispatches every 36 seconds. That's just insane. They pump out trains or ride vehicles or whatever it is depending on the ride quickly, so usually the line keeps moving. As I said earlier though, watch out for Soarin' Around the World's line. That one is slow moving. So at the end of the day, I definitely recommend this theme park. What is there not to like? From the theming, to the rides, to the food, to the operations, this park does pretty much everything well. It's overall a place that I think is very easy to have fun at. And ultimately, it is worthy of its acclaim. So those are just some of my thoughts on Disney's California Adventure and why I think you should visit it.